Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Let's start this webinar. Let me introduce. Myself, my name is JOSEP PARRA. I am researcher at EURECAT, together with my colleague JOANA, who will speak also later on. I am a researcher in the Artificial Intelligence Unit in EURECAT, and also the technical coordinator of the IMPETUS project. Today, I'm delighted to welcome you to this partner event of the EU Green Week called Navigating Regional Realities Amid Water Scarcity in Europe. This event aims to learn from the experience of 4 regions across Europe as they work to adapt to the water scarcity using local strategies. It's an opportunity for us to demonstrate how different technologies and approaches can be used to make our regions more resilient to the upcoming challenges based by climate change, but also to hear from you, to hear from your experiences, the barriers that you find, and so on. So next slide, please. Today, we have a fantastic lineup, including 2 main sessions. In the first one, we have 5 speakers, which will last for an hour, from 4 EU regions who will explain their experiences and the technologies they are applying. After that, the second session, moderated by JOANA, will feature a panel discussion focused on barriers and opportunities. I would like to add a heartfelt thank you to everyone who made this event possible, especially Gustavo Giacomelli, our communication dissemination leader in Impetus, Maria and Julia, supporting the preparation of this session from the Grid support office, to our speakers, Georgia, Queralt, Daniel, KLIO, and Marion, as well as said JOANA, who will moderate the event. Also, I would like to leave you with a quote from Thomas Fuller, which is, "We never know the worth of water till the well is dry." Fortunately, we are here because we are conscious of this quote. We know about the potential problems of water scarcity. However, I think that we are quite a few here. Then we need to continue raising awareness about water scarcity issues while simultaneously building solutions and technologies and demonstrating them. So with this very few first quick introduction, and before we begin, I give the floor to my colleague JOANA, who will state a few housekeeping items for implementing the session. And again, thank you all for joining the session and enjoy it.
Thank you so much, Josep. Hello to all. Thank you also again for joining us. As Josep introduced, we have an exceptional panel, but we also count on you as experts in your fields to actively participate. As you've seen from Josep's introduction, we will start with the presentations of our 5 panelists, but then there's also a panel discussion to which I will refer in a minute. First, as Josep said, just some practical information. This session is being recorded, as you see here. Also, you can ask your questions using the Q&A feature in the Zoom call. And initially we're thinking of having all the speakers do their presentations and dealing with the questions at the end. However, they will be checking on the questions and might prompt the speakers to answer briefly, or they might just jump in and answer briefly if the question is very much connected to their presentations. Otherwise, whatever questions are not dealt with will be answered at the end. So yeah, we've gone through the question and answer. Next slide, please. As I said, and as you saw in the agenda previously, we start with the presentations of our panelists, but we have also created a Slido interactive question that you can see now on screen, because we would like to have your visions on what challenges, what barriers, what opportunities there are for stakeholder engagement in the water scarcity reality. And we think that our speakers will tell us important things about that, but the participants, you from your fields of expertise, can also provide some feedback on this. So we invite you to join slido.com and just scan this QR. You will be accessing the Slido platform, and you can provide your ideas, your comments relating this question. During the session, we will have all the answers at the end, and we can engage in a discussion concerning these and other issues during the session. Well, so with no further delay, I will stop here and introduce you to our first speaker. Our first speaker is GIORGIA ROBBIATI. You've seen we have cases from Italy, Spain, Greece, and Germany. We will start with Italy. GIORGIA ROBBIATI comes from the Consortium of Municipalities of the Mountain Catchment Basin, SARCA-MINCIO-GARDA. She's an expert in agricultural and rural development for mountain areas. And so I'll just invite her to start. Thank you, GIORGIA.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. So the topic we present is about improving the resilience of agricultural water management by implementing a multi-stakeholder approach. And I would present the experience of Valle de Laghi that has been chosen within the IMPETUS project as demo site representatives of European mountain areas. Next slide, please. So Valle de Laghi is located in southwest Trentino. We are in the northern eastern part of Italy, and agriculture is the main economic activity. So we have this mosaic of landscape alternating vineyards, orchards, woodlands, and meadows with a transition from alpine to Mediterranean climates. Water use ranges from civil uses, hydroelectric exploitation, farming activities, tourism sector, and climate change is generating water stress where water resources have been typically abundant. So water scarcity has been identified as a more urgent climate risk in this area. So next slide. So at the demo site level, our working group is composed by EURECAT Research, which is coordinating the project activities, WaterJade, that is a startup with an expertise in hydrological modeling, and the institution for which I'm presently working, which is a consortium of municipalities of the SARCA-MINCIO-GARDA and Catchment Basin, and a joining partner is Foundation Edwin Ma. So a set of adaptation solutions is being implemented in the demo site that ranges from the development of a decision support system for an integrated water management, the analysis of innovative insurance products for agriculture, the evaluation of the effects of the altitudinal shifts on vineyards, the improvements of climate risk assessments with adaptation tools such as impact chains, and the activation of cultural heritage to enhance climate resilience. Next slide. So among these solutions, major focus have been put on the agricultural sector, as agricultural water management represents a critical issue in the context of climate change. And according to the UN World Water Development Report of 2022, at the global scale, agriculture accounts for 70% of freshwater withdrawals, and farming is conceived as being the main cause and the main victim of water scarcity. Of course, the pressure on an increasingly scarce resource is posing challenges for food production, rural development, and natural resources management. So combining mitigation and adaptation pathways through water is foreseen as a win-win strategy. Next slide, please. So dealing with water resource systems includes coping with uncertainty, and we should integrate top-down approaches so to assess climate change impacts and provide robustness to the model, with bottom-up approaches to integrate local knowledge and boost social acceptability. So in the Valle de Laghi demo sites, the multi-stakeholder engagement has implied the organization of several activities, such as workshops, trainings, follow-up meetings, and one-to-one meetings. Next slide. So as we saw before, among the adaptation solutions, DSS, so decision support systems for an integrated water management is under development, and 2 workshops have been organized, one focusing on water scarcity issues and the decision-making processes and tools and data that are currently used to understand the drawbacks of the process and the functionalities that should have a DSS to help stakeholders in bringing the decisions. The second workshop was focused on the presentation of a first draft of the DSS platform and collect feedbacks to improve the system. So among the participants, we have representatives of the academic world, so research institutes, representatives of the provincial services, local administrations, and the irrigation consortia. Next slide. So another adaptive solutions is related to the improvement of climate risk assessments and management, and a specific workshop session was held to develop an impact chain for risk management in agriculture. Next slide. And a specific workshop on agricultural water management was held. The starting point was a state-of-art analysis to better understand the dynamics and the people involved in this activity. And the analysis has highlighted a strong fragmentation in the irrigation water management in the northern part of the valley, with 12 land improvement and irrigation consortia managing water on approximately 1,000 hectares of irrigated surface, so a ratio of 1 subject to 80 hectares. So at the time of the study, 2 consortia of second degree grouping this great number of entities were formally constituted but not operational. Another important aspect that emerged was that over the last 15 years, there has been an important increase of irrigated surface, and this trend we will probably confirm in the future. And even if drip irrigation is widely diffused, there is a low use of monitoring systems and irrigation advice, and a still high dependence from groundwater for irrigation. So this little consultation we figured out in the diverse responses to water scarcity in 2022. So there was a divergence of responses to climate risk, ranging from the reduction in watering times and to the increase in watering times or watering frequency. Next slide. So the workshop in 2023 has really been a great moment of exchange among the different subjects, certainly a great involvement due to the need to find strategy to face water scarcity. The aim was to identify critical issues, proposals, and needs, and to co-identify collective and shared solutions at the valley level. And we had the participation of the academic world, provincial services, local administrations, and irrigation consortia. Next slide, please. Our training session was also organized focusing on the relationships between soil, water, and plants, so on soil health and its capacity to retain water. Next slide. So within the local workshop on agricultural water management, we collect the critical issues, needs, and proposals for adaptation that we have categorized using the Climate Adapt framework and the set of key type of measures. So what we found out is that most of the adaptation options match with the measures illustrated in the provincial water protection plans, and among the ongoing activities carried out within the IMPETUS projects, we are working on enhancing communication among the stakeholders, on enhancing, improving the use of monitoring devices for water resources, and focusing also on improving the training of stakeholders. One of another important thing is that the facilitation of communication between irrigation consortia carried out within the project has contributed to the operational aggregation of the small irrigation entities that has led to the presentation of a unique Valley project for irrigation water management. So this could have a great impact on the Valley. Next slide, please. So after the workshop, we can go on with the animation. We organize several follow-up meetings to exchange on workshop outcomes, update local institutions on impetus activities, working on finding copy solutions to face emergency situation, and creating synergies with provincial services. Final slide. And in April 2024, the irrigation consortia involved in the Impetus project have presented their pathways to other irrigation consortia located in other valleys of the catchment basins. So this is an example of the transfer of good practices at the local level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giorgia. Okay, so we will move on now to Spain, and particularly the Catalan coast. We have QUERALT Plana from EURECAT Technological Center in Catalonia. She's a researcher specialized in modeling and management of the integral cycle in urban water. And she's also the demo site leader in the Impetus project for the Catalan coast. So, QUERALT, when you want.
Good morning, everyone. Today I will present some adaptation strategies to face water scarcity in a touristic region of the Catalan coast, as we are implementing our solutions within the demo site within the Impetus project. Next slide, please. To put you a little bit in context, Catalonia is on the northeast part of Spain, which is a Mediterranean area, and we can locate the coast of Catalonia on the green part of this map. Next one, please. The socioeconomic and environmental sectors affected by climate change that we can find along the coast are the infrastructure, like the Barcelona airport or even the harbor. Some industries like Zona Franca in Barcelona, or the petrochemical industrial area in Tarragona, a little bit south of Barcelona. Also, as I mentioned, this is a touristic region. Couple of examples, apart from Barcelona, we can find Costa Brava up to the north and Costa Daurada in the south of Barcelona. Also, we have high urbanization density areas, like for instance, 1,500 inhabitants per square kilometer. And we have a little bit in less representation, agriculture production, for instance, in Almeresma, which is north to Barcelona. Next slide, please. To put you a little bit in the context, how Catalonia is managed in terms of water, we can find two separate watersheds. We have the inner watersheds. We are 100% managed in Catalonia. It means that they are managed by the Catalan Water Agency, and also all the clients, the beneficiaries of the water is in Catalonia. We have the inner part of Catalonia, which is they are using the water from Ebro watershed, which is the I don't know if it's the biggest watershed in Spain, but at least one of the biggest, which is the dark blue part indicated in this map. Now I will focus mainly on the inner watershed, which is the eastern part of Catalonia, which is the light blue. Next, please. To let you know, the inner watersheds, the maximum volume, they are managed all together. So the maximum volume that we can store within the inner watersheds, it's more than 600 cubic hectometers, and the current volume it's around 200 cubic meters. I took this data 3 days ago, and this is about 34% of the full capacity. This number, it has been improved during the last months because it has been raining more frequent, I would say more days than the last 3 years. Early January, there was the emergency state because the reservoirs, the inner watersheds were below 15%. So as you can imagine, the situation is a little bit critical in Catalonia regarding the water availability. Next, please. And to provide you an idea, 1 cubic hectometer, it can be used by 7.5 millions of inhabitants per day. So in Catalonia, the population that are using the inner watershed, water availability, so they are consuming 1 cubic hectometer per day. Next, please. Just to show you the water uses. Someone is speaking. Could you mute yourself, please? Thank you. So the water uses in Catalonia, here we have split it the overall in Catalonia, and then regarding the inner watersheds, and then the Catalan watersheds specified for the Ebro watershed. So as you can see here, we are using the biggest part of the water is consumed for agriculture, since we have this is a big sector in Catalonia. And then we are going to focus here on the domestic uses, which is in the inner watersheds is almost 30%. And regarding the rest, the Ebro watershed in Catalonia, it's only 1.5%. Next, please. To show you exactly these uses, how we can translate it per person, per liter, and per day. We see that the water demand in domestic uses, we are around 114 liters per person per day. If you consider other services and other economic activities, we reach almost 170 liters per person and per day. And if we start to add all the industrial uses and also the agriculture uses, we can go further on that, and we can reach 400 liters per day per person if we consider all the commercial uses and all the sectors. I will focus in this presentation the domestic uses plus the touristic activity, and I will make a comparison with both of them. Next slide, please. If we compare domestic uses, comparing like the citizens in Catalonia and the touristic consumption, we can see that there is a difference. It has been improved during the last years, though there's still a difference. And it can vary the consumption depending on the class of the tourism. If it's first, second class, it's lower and it's close to a citizen, Catalan citizen, though if we go to 5th class and luxury tourism, they can reach more than 500 liters per person per day. Well, that was a data in 2016, though it has been improved. And in 2022, it was already below 150. Next slide, please. Sorry, the animation here, it's not the proper one, but you can show everything. As you can see, we have different socioeconomic and environmental sectors along the Catalan coast, which they are competing for the water resources, which can cause water stress to the systems, and also it increases their vulnerability. Here I put two different images. As you can see, this is a reservoir, one of the biggest reservoirs that we have in Catalonia, which is providing water to Barcelona area and also Costa Brava area up to the north. And we can see that the image in 2 years, how it can change. So in 2021, we still had enough water, but in 2023, the level, it just dropped down because after 2 years of drought without rain at all, or very, very few rain, depending on the area, on the region in Catalonia, but we could see the difference regarding the church, for instance. In 2021, we could see only the top of the church, and in 2023, we could see the entire church and even below that. Next one. Regarding the mitigation and adaptation strategies already implemented or that they are ongoing in Catalonia, most of them are promoted by the government. And there's a national commitment for responsible tourism, which is requiring to assimilate the average consumption of tourists to the consumption of the resident population in 2040, which it means that we need to increase efforts on the water efficiency in tourist establishment and considering the reduction and reuse measures. And we need to get involved, the companies and the institutions to be committed to this significant reduction of their water footprint. A part of this national commitment, next please. We also have the Catalan strategies for climate change adaptation. The second block of these strategies are from 2021 and 2023. And I would like to underline that the Catalan strategy for climate change adaptation requires to achieve this average consumption of tourists to the consumption of the resident population in 2030. So the national commitment, it's in 2040, and in the Catalan strategy for climate change, SCAC 30, this requirement is by 2030. Next, please. That next one. This is what I was mentioning now. So, and considering the current drought period, there's an urgency to assimilate the consumption of tourists. So this is something that we're working on in Catalonia, and the Catalan government is making efforts to improve that. Next slide, please. This is within the Catalan Coast Demo site, we have a diversity of partners. I didn't mention that, but we are 7 partners involved. One of them is the Catalan government itself, specifically the Catalan Office for Climate Change. So we have their support that they are providing all the insights from the SCAC 30, as I mentioned, and they provide the feedback of administration point of view, and we are trying to support them on the progress of the climate adaptation strategies within the demo site. Also, we have 2 universities involved. One of them is University of Girona, and the other one is University Rovira i Virgili, which they, at the University Rovira i Virgili, they are working on strategies to build up a resilient tourism. So within these strategies, they are preparing some co-creation workshops. They are working on some co-creation workshops performed and inviting all the touristic sector in 2 different regions in Catalonia. And one of the outcomes that they found with these workshops, they were working on how we could prioritize and define the availability of different mitigation and adaptation strategies that we could implement within the touristic sector. So here is the classification of these adaptation strategies, and depending on their priority and availability. So at first they considered that we need to educate and sensibilize the population about the water uses, and we need to reduce the water consumption. And one first step should be also to harvest rainwater. So those 3 points were the most relevant ones, the ones that the touristic sector can start to work on, and they have as a priority points to start to work. Other points that were not considered as high priority, but also they are available to implement them. So should be the diversification of the touristic offers and activities with low footprint, promote those activities with low footprint, improve the governance of the water, and also reduce the chemicals in water. If we can reduce the chemicals in water, we can reduce also the contamination, the pollution of the water bodies. So that would be easier then to treat them and to recover them. If we see then the less priority and less viability points would be improve the efficiency of water distribution network, because there are some leakages that we could be solved since the network they are a bit old in some parts, not all along the coast, but they can be improved. Monitor the water consumption at local level and improve the water management depending on the use and considering its reuse. With high priority but less viability, we could adopt some compromises by public agents and private agents, build up some desalination plants to complement the freshwater restrictions and to ensure enough water for everyone along the coast, and improve the infrastructure for rainwater harvesting. And less priority and less available could be then the treat and reuse gray wastewater like in a decentralized system in-house, let's say. Like if there's a hotel, the hotel itself could implement some technologies to reuse gray water inside this hotel and to be used for further uses that not require potable quality water. And I'm done. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Caral. Okay, we've seen two cases, Italy, Spain, really some similarities. We'll have time to discuss those later in the panel. Let's move on now to KLIO Monokrousou. She's a senior researcher at the Urban Water Management and Hydroinformatics Group. She's a civil engineer, an expert in water resources management and sustainable urban planning. And we will hear now about Greece in the Attica region. So, Cleo.
Joanna, good morning to all. Yes, actually today I will be presenting you technological solutions that we have implemented in order to tackle water scarcity matters in the Mediterranean areas, and in particular in the Attica region where we work mainly. So if we move on to the first slide, we can take a moment and see the main drivers of water scarcity, which are, of course, population growth and rapid urbanization, the economic crisis, and climate change, which result in a reduction in water availability, but also in a deterioration of water quality. So to address these issues, there is an urgent need for innovative practices, and next slide, please. Innovative practices and technological solutions with water reuse being an attractive option for keeping resources within the social and industrial systems for as long as possible, while extracting additional value from them. So what kind of solutions do we need? We need solutions that have been previously tested and optimized in real-world environments according to their performance, and solutions that can be replicated in other similar areas with similar conditions. So we need the solutions flexible, adaptable, and scalable. So if we move on to the next slide, we can see the city of Athens being the capital of Greece, that has a number of challenges to address, with water scarcity being a major one. The city consists of a dense urban environment with very few green spaces, and water supply has become a significant challenge as we have to transfer water from approximately 300 kilometers away to irrigate our parks. So the city seeks apparently alternative solutions and circular and distributed systems to solve these issues. Next slide, please. So to address this matter, we have designed and installed a modular sewer mining unit as an innovative water reuse system. It is in fact a wastewater treatment station that extracts wastewater from local sewers that are located under each point of a city. We treat wastewater at the point of demand in a park and produce high quality water suitable for irrigation of the green areas, aquifer recharge, and other urban uses. So the main principle of this technology is that wastewater is extracted from local sewers at the point of demand, and it is reserved for when it is needed. If you move on to the next slide, we can see the sewer mining unit, and the pictures we can see the container, which is the treatment unit itself, and it consists of a membrane bioreactor unit and a UV disinfection system. The previous one actually, great. And we can see the process actually here, that we initially extract water from using two small pumping stations that operate alternately, and we send this wastewater to a series of tanks where water is treated through MBR technology, as I said, and water is then ready for irrigation. The capacity of the unit is about 25 cubic meters per day, but this is a flexible number and we can adjust it according to the needs of its green space. Next slide, please. We can see here that the municipality of Athens has created a series of gardens around the sewer mining unit that use the recycled water for irrigation. This is impressive in terms of the water that is being used is full of nutrients, phosphorus and nitrate, and the plants are growing faster apparently than using potable water for their irrigation. Next slide, please. And here we can see another application of the sewer manning technology, again implemented in Attica, in which we have progressed and advanced the technology even further to install photovoltaic systems to make the unit completely autonomous. We can see that there are solar panels above the units, and energy is reduced to almost zero, apart from some peak values in the summer. So if we move on to some numbers and diagrams, next slide, we can see that even in the startup period of operating the unit, we have noticed that the removal rates of the pollutants has been higher than 90%, which shows that MBR technology is very safe to use, and also with a great stability we have noticed. Also, here we can see in the next slide that the processed aggregated results for quality characteristics of the effluent demonstrate that we meet all the national and international criteria that are set here in this table, and there is a complete elimination of organic carbon and pathogenic content. So there is apparently a reduction of pathogens due to the MBR filtration process, and without adding any chemicals, we avoid the production of secondary pollutants. Next slide, please. And here we can see also that for the UV disinfection unit, which is the last process and the last two diagrams, there is also great performance, as we can see with the green dots and the red ones. So there is the final disinfection step, again, very important for the final product. So if we can move on to the conclusions of implementing this technology, we have proof that it is quite an efficient and stable technology that requires very limited space. You can see that there is only 2 containers that we use, and we can install it in apparently most of the urban parks. And there is the container that is the unit, and the control system is the other room. We can produce this high quality water, which is very important for this dense and urban environment. So we protect the natural resources, we don't use potable water, and we don't use groundwater, which is also very important. Of course, we reduce wastewater flow through this technology, avoid transport costs and the drinking water demand. As I said, this produced water is rich in nutrients. This has a positive effect on the plants, but also a noticeable impact on the biodiversity of the local ecosystem. Of course, it is a very replicable model of technology, and we can, through this, enhance the resilience of the cities to climate change, especially in the cities of the Mediterranean, where we deal with a very dry summers and significant water scarcity during that period. If you move on to the next slide, I can say that, of course, this technology, as any new technology, has a significant challenge of public acceptability, and as well as the adaptation of the technology by the competent bodies, because we also need to collaborate on that with local stakeholders, the local communities, and of course the citizens where we install such units. So for this matter, we have organized interactive workshops on site at the technology development sites so that we demonstrate the units in person. And we have hosted also online seminars to transfer the knowledge to a wider audience, to water companies from all over the country, other local administration organizations, as well as other interested parties. The main idea is, of course, to increase the resilience of regions, but also to adapt societies to climate change and mobilize the local communities that water scarcity issues can have solutions, and we can build on that if we cooperate. So I will stop here. Thank you for your attention, and we can discuss a bit later anything that you would like.
Thank you so much, KLIO. That was very interesting. I actually have some questions for you, but I will leave them for later.
Right.
Okay, so let's move on to Daniel WICKE from KOMPETENZZENTRUM WASSER in Berlin. He's an environmental engineer working in urban systems, the urban systems department on water quality and quantity. And he's also a task leader in the Impetus demo site for the Berlin metropolitan region. So let's go, Daniel.
Yeah, thanks, Joanna, for the introduction, and hello, everyone. So what I would like to know is addressing challenges of reduced water availability for the water management in a city with a semi-closed water cycle like Berlin. So next, please. So after you have seen now examples from the Catalonia and also Attica in Greece, with a bit more severe conditions, I would like, so you might ask, well, the continental region, water scarcity in Berlin, is this really an issue? So if you look at the map on the right, which is showing Berlin, you see a lot of blue spaces, lakes, and so on. Yeah, but nevertheless, the last years have shown that there are quite a bit of challenges. It has to do with the first one, Berlin obtains its drinking water exclusively from local water resources, which is 30% of groundwater and 70% of bank filtration, which means that the surface waters in Berlin are the water resources used for that. And second point is that the two main rivers, the Spree and the Havel, have low flow generally compared to others, and in recent years they were exceptionally low due to changing precipitation patterns. So, and especially in the semi-closed water cycle, we do have challenges for the drinking water production. And what semi-closed water cycle means, you can see also in the map. So there are wastewater treatment plants in green, and also with some arrows showing that they are discharging the water into the local water system. And there are the blue dots, which are water works. And so you see that there's treated wastewater discharge to surface waters, and further downstream in the same surface waters, there's drinking water produced from bank filtration. So if you go to the next slide, please. So to illustrate the challenges from recent years, I've brought a few or three figures for you. The first one here is showing the flows of the catchment of this one of the main rivers, the Spree, to Berlin, and the gray shadows are showing the percentiles of the flow from the period of 1991 to 2017, and the lines are the colored lines are the values for the years 2018, 2019, and 2020. And if you see, especially have a look at the time frame May, like the summer, May till September, you see that those years, especially 2019, are the lowest numbers we have ever seen. in the past 20 to 30 years. And if you look at the average, total average inflow to Berlin, we have a number of 42 cubic meters per second for this long period and just 22 for the year of 2019. Next, please. This one is showing the flows at a certain spot of a drinking water treatment plant doing bank filtration, and the red dots and below is the amount abstracted from the surface water by the drinking water treatment plant. And the blue one is the flow of the surface water at this point. And you see that we are getting quite close, especially in the summer. And at other points, there are actually already overlaps, so that there's as much water abstracted from the surface water as is flowing, and sometimes even more. And next one. And finally, here, this is showing the share of treated wastewater in the surface waters in the year 2019. So this quite dry year at several points in the surface waters of Berlin. And the red one means that it's the share of treated wastewater. And as you can see, it's at some places above 50 and even above 80 or something %. Okay, next one. So this figure illustrates all the challenges, the one I mentioned, but also others, and it also illustrates this semi-closed water cycle, where you have on the left-hand side the waterworks that's then abstracting water from the surface water to a subsurface passage to the wells, and then the drinking water is produced and then used, and then the wastewater is discharging in the same surface waters. And in this system, you have then a problem if the surface water flow gets lower, because then you have an increasing share of treated wastewater. So you have a quality problem. With the climate changes and longer droughts, we will see this more frequent. In addition, the population grows, you have a higher water demand, and with this you also have more wastewater, so a higher concentration of micropollutants. And then there's another issue on the quantity side, which is indirectly related to climate change, which is the political decision to end coal mining. Because in the south of Berlin, there's an area where an open pit mine is operated for decades. And to operate those pit mines, the groundwater needs to be pumped out. And this one is discharged into the Spree River. So for decades, we have about a third of the river flow that is comprising of this discharged groundwater. And when this stops in 10 or 15, it's about 13 years or something, then this water isn't available anymore. Okay, let's move on. So what are the strategies to overcome those challenges? So the Berlin Senate, which is a partner of the project as well, has developed so-called Master Plan for Water, which is a midterm to long-term future strategy for the Berlin's water management. And it evaluates, based on this already quite dry year, the implications of having even further reduced flows, for example, due to the mining stops and others, and also a reduced groundwater recharge due to climate change. And besides an overview regarding those challenges and risks, there's a list of 32 measures, interventions, and options for action on various levels. And it's not a finalized thing. It's continue to be developed, and implementation of the measures. Yes. And what we're doing in Impetus, we are modeling several of the water management scenarios to see what the effect would be, such as the installation of trace substance removal systems at wastewater treatment plants, which is actually done for the first of 6 or 7 wastewater treatment plants at the moment, which is ozonation, which then helps the quality issue. There are others like the optimized discharge route for discharge of wastewater treatment plants, which is not just trying to divert the flow around the city, but in the opposite, use this as a water resource in the water cycle to address the water quantity issue. So discharge it at points where it actually is held in the city to be a resource to produce drinking water. And also other scenarios for the coordinated measurement of the upper Spree rivers, such as also the mentioned pit mine issue. As part of the project, then there are several decision theaters will be done in 2024, which are special workshops together with stakeholders, and I will come on the next slide, explain those a bit more. And all those will lead to support of decision making to then, for example, prioritize this long list of 32 measures. Which one would be best to implement first? Now to the decision theaters themselves, I haven't heard about this before, this project, so it was quite new to me as well. So I wanted to say what this is. It's a kind of a special format of workshop with different stakeholder groups. And what is special is that those workshops are supported by model-based visualizations of scenarios. So there are several screens where then results of scenarios, simulations are shown. And there's also a certain method to evaluate stakeholder contributions. And within the impetus, we have two, different stakeholder kinds, let's say. So one will be with different experts on these fields, with Berlin Water Authority, also water utility, and the others with different stakeholder groups, citizens, companies, also politics, to participate in this process of decision making. And it works that way that for one of those decision theater, the participants are divided into several groups, and each group selects different measures or scenarios, and then afterwards they're coming together and the consequences of their selections are then presented. So it's a way of bringing together empirical information, modeling simulations, and also stakeholder dialogues in one format. Okay, and with this, I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And okay, last but not least, let's have now Marion Zilker from the German Association of Local Public Utilities. She has worked there on different issues concerning public utilities from the water sector. And since 2021, she has been a part of the ARSIONE case study in the Main River Basin. And well, we will now learn more about this in her presentation. So Marion.
Thank you very much. Today I will tell you more about the ARSIONE case study in the Main River Basin, the situation there regarding water scarcity, and some of the solutions we have developed in ARSIONE. Next slide, please. The Main River case study is one of 9 ARSIONE case studies, and I thought I'd bring you a map to show you where we are in Europe. So you can see every single ARSIONE case study on the map. The one in the Main River Basin is marked by this red arrow. This Main River Basin case study is the one that looks at the water, energy, food ecosystems nexus in ARSIONE. The Main River is one of the largest tributaries to the Rhine, and its basin spans most of northern Bavaria, which is the region we're then focusing on. It's characterized by highly diversified land use, so including specialized agriculture, viticulture. There's also some hops being grown, but there are also some larger urban centers, some of which you might know, such as Nuremberg or Würzburg. the region has always been rather arid, with a lot of water transfer from the less arid south to the north through a very large system. However, in recent years, it's become more and more obvious that the region is becoming more affected by drought, and there are more challenges around water scarcity. Next slide, please. Thank you. So right now there's already a considerable problem with water scarcity and also with competition around water. Added to that are conflicts around land use change because of urbanization, but also because of changes in agriculture, including irrigation, but also the energy transition. And climate change is now causing more and more intense winter floods, but also summer droughts and heat. And some of the consequences you can see in the pictures. For example, extreme weather events affect, of course, agriculture, but also life in cities, as you can see from this tram stuck under an overpass. But there are also, of course, challenges to drinking water supply, because much of the water for drinking water comes from groundwater, around 90%. Then, of course, there are also challenges for forestry, for example, or also for energy production from renewables, when cornfields dry out and you can't produce the resources for energy production. So all in all, there are these very severe risks for the river itself, but also for groundwater quality and water quantity as well, for maintaining basic ecosystem services, but also for maintaining city utility operations, like the provision of drinking water, for energy production, but also for wastewater management and other things such as transportation, for example, along the River Main. So the picture in the middle there shows this boat struggling to make its way up the river towards the Rhine. In addition to that, there is still a relatively limited awareness when it comes to the severity of the regional impacts of climate change. And in consequence, there is also limited action in the region. Because of that, we have this idea behind our case study that this region is at present at risk of being pushed beyond a resilience threshold, so that current means of resource management are simply not fit for the conditions under climate change that we are moving towards, and therefore we need new solutions, and solutions that consider a variety of stakeholders and sectors and take this holistic approach, which is taken in ARSINOE. So the goals that we have in the case study are that we add to the understanding of local risks of climate change and the changes that are taking place for different sectors. We want to improve the flow of information between science and practitioners and stakeholders, because sometimes there is this disconnect between what geographers, for example, know and what people in the region know and do. We also want to develop solutions together with stakeholders instead of just telling them what they should be doing. And together we want to build so-called innovation pathways towards a more climate resilient future, basically. And also generate ideas for how to improve water management in the region, for example, for the state and for authorities. Next slide, please. Thank you. So one of the things we did in the case study was that we set up a so-called living lab as a means for co-creation together with our stakeholders. We invited a very diverse and large group of people from different professions and backgrounds who are already being impacted by climate change and have to deal with those impacts, but also those who expect to be impacted in the future. So for example, we invited the heads of public utility companies, we had farmers in our discussions, people who work in forestry, but also people from state administrative bodies who are implementing policies. But we also included environmental NGOs and citizen initiatives that are worried about their own drinking water supply, for example. And together with those stakeholders, we had several discussions and also interviews. And I'm going to tell you about 3 workshops we did to show you the methodology a bit. And maybe that's even something you might be interested in copying in your own region if you face similar challenges. Next slide, please. So one of the first things we did with this group of people is that we asked them how they were affected by climate change at the moment, and by water scarcity in particular. And it became very obvious very quickly that everybody saw water scarcity as a severe challenge, and that many were already starting to develop solutions. However, they were often developing these solutions in isolation. So many, for example, were planning to restrict the use of groundwater because groundwater levels were sinking, and to substitute that groundwater with water from the river Main. But many people in that region were doing it, and they weren't considered that other stakeholders might want to use the same resources as them and what effects that might have on them. So there's very little communication about adaptation strategies in the region at this point. And our living lab was the first point of contact for these different stakeholders, and a point where they then realized that there might be conflicts there maybe in the future. But in our next debate, we wanted to move away from problems and from challenges and all the things that aren't working out right now, and instead talk about the type of region that people wanted to live in, actually, in the next years. And we created this vision for a future in 2050, always keeping in mind also the goals of the European Green Deal and also SDGs, and talked about what type of region we want to achieve, basically, in our work. And this vision of a future that included a healthy water balance, considered and effective water use, better means of dealing with resource conflicts than right now, but also a healthy environment with well-protected and restored rivers, healthy forests, also healthy soils that can retain more water and more precipitation, and also changes in agriculture, for example. And then in the next step, we thought about how we could reach this future. We set goals with our stakeholders, talked about measures that can be taken and when they should be taken and who can truly implement these things and these changes. Unfortunately, there are too many pathways for me to tell you about all of them. So instead, I'd rather focus on a few things that might be valuable takeaways for you as well. Next slide, please. So one of the things we found was that there is already a multitude of different solutions and ideas of how water scarcity can be addressed. And many of those are also have also been shown to work already, either in the region, in limited proof of concepts, or in other parts of Bavaria, sometimes in other parts of Germany or the European Union. And this large toolbox is very valuable because it shows how much can already be done, and that we also need all of these solutions. And it's important to note that technology has its place in all of this, and it has an important place, but we also, for example, need more nature-based solutions. And there is a need for really restoring nature on a large scale and changing land use, for example. And there is also a need for social solutions. That includes regulation and legislation, but also things like our living lab, for example. So forums where people can talk about what they want to do to move towards a more sustainable future with more sustainable water use. Because that way people can actually make choices about how they want to use the water that is available to them. Could you move to the next slide, please? Thank you. One thing that also was very obvious from the debates, and which is illustrated by a quote you see on the slide, is that there is a need to act now. So we asked people to place all of these measures and their goals on a timeline between now and 2050, And people usually place those very close to today or within the next 5 to 10 years, with the reason being that measures always need time to take effect. There might be a need to tweak them if they don't quite work the way they are intended to work. And also climate change is limiting the possible actions and its progression. So for example, someone from forestry told us very clearly that they were struggling to actually adapt forests in the region because of drought, because drought-resistant species were dying off when they planted them. So there is a need to act now, and also there is a need to also simply restrict climate change. And that is something that you all can help us with outside of the region, because adapting to unrestrained, unmitigated climate change simply isn't an option, or would be a lot harder. And also there's a certain need for action across all levels, because while this bottom-up approach through the living labs is very valuable for creating networks and for finding new local alliances for changes, there are still some things that only other levels can do, things like legislative changes or changes to economic structures, for example. And I hope this was a valuable insight in our work for some of you, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Marion. Well, so we've heard our panelists. I think they provide a certainly diverse and rich vision of what challenges we face with water scarcity, specifically in urban areas, but also in wider regions like the Catalan coast or the Valle di Laghi. We've been tracking the question and answer feature on Zoom. And we would like to open now the floor for questions. I think we don't have any questions yet, but I do have some. So maybe just to break the ice while our participants refect on your interesting presentations. Going back to the beginning, to the cases of Spain and Italy, I would like to ask Giorgia and Queralt. Well, you've both mentioned agriculture as one of the critical sectors in your territories, in your areas. Are there ongoing or potential socio-political conflicts for water use between farmers, landowners, citizens, or maybe other key actors? I mean, things like protests, political crises, or social contestation of any form?
I can start answering for Valle dei Laghi. No, actually, there are no protests, but we have conflict use with hydroelectric exploitation. So, of course, then there are important economical, but also political interests in this. As hydroelectric exploitation, of course, means also extra fees for the municipalities. So it's an income for municipalities. So taking away water for hydroelectric purposes means also reducing the income for municipalities. And then in some areas, we had some conflict use, especially in the beginning of 2023. So after a very low winter precipitation trend, the pressure on groundwater and conflicts between potable use and irrigation use.
Thank you, Giorgia.
I can provide some thoughts regarding Catalan case. As early this year, we were on the state of emergency in Catalonia, how the Catalan government acts before to implement the water restrictions within the different sectors. They set all together all the main actors involved or affected by the drought, and they defined some strategies in order to achieve the demand of the different sectors, and they started to limit it's like they ensure enough water for the essential activities. They started to cut other extra services like swimming pools or like that. So they try to protect first sector, also citizens, and they try to commit every one of the different sectors and agree among the restrictions. So all the Catalan departments within the government, they agree where to put some restrictions and the consumption limitations. But yeah, of course, we can have we are not that far to have some conflicts in socioeconomical sectors.
Yes, thank you, Coral. Yeah, because there seem to be certain similarities there. I also have a question to KLIO while we wait for other participants to provide their questions. I think there's one now that I will go ahead and read. But I would also ask Maria to share the QR code that's in the next slide, because as we progress in this question and answer session and we open maybe an open discussion also, please, maybe you don't have questions, but we would certainly like for you to share your thoughts, your feedback on the challenges we face concerning engagement, stakeholder engagement in relation to water scarcity. So, well, before me jumping again to ask our panelists, we have a question here. I don't know if you can see it. I will just go ahead and read it. From Giovanni Zecconi. It says, there is any European program you are aware of that's financing to build participation in bottom-up fashion to promote a sense of agency? How can the small communities be supported in learning how to apply and get the funding? And he's asking from the Venice Resilience Lab, WICKE. So I don't know if any of the panelists have answers on that.
I can provide some insight on that, but of course it's from our point of view and our experience. As I mentioned briefly in the presentation, there is always this issue of engaging the public and the society in introducing new technologies, especially when it comes to wastewater or resources that are not that the public is not very familiar or appealing to them. For this matter, I think we have there are funding instruments through, of course, the European projects, and we have to design very carefully with the local communities engaging activities where we put in the same table both services and authorities and NGOs, as well as SMEs that are have activity in these sectors, and we discuss with them so that they first, of course, they have a clear view of what the technology is about. Our aim, and we have also worked on that, is to have a living lab in these technologies, so that we apply all these discussions and all these matters in the field, so that there is actually a demonstration process along with the actual coming in contact with the solutions at the first hand, let's say, with people involved. This is also for policy issues. It's not only for the public, but it's also for the high-level governance that they would have to adapt their policies and their regulation to include this circular, let's say, for this matter, solutions. As there is no regulation, maybe in some areas there is a gap of policies. So it addresses also to this kind of gaps. It's not only the public or the end users that they will invent this technology or solution, but it's also a gap in the higher level of governance. But I think it's very important to address that in parallel with developing a technology, because it's what it makes it applicable at the end of the day, and transferable and of course replicable, as I said before.
Thank you, KLIO. Well, while we wait, if there's some reaction to that input you provided, and in relation to what you just shared, I had a question for you because to me, the fact that the municipality uses sewer mining technology, for example, for public spaces such as urban green areas, and that this has been also communicated to citizens as an engagement strategy, well, it seems like there probably have been reactions on that from the part of maybe citizens. And I was wondering if you have any experiences on, for example, citizen science as an engagement strategy to visibilize the value of such measures, like, for example, citizens monitoring biodiversity improved in parks, for example. Do you have any experience or knowledge of that?
Yeah, we have a lot of hesitance in the beginning of the projects, of this kind of projects, not from citizens so much as from the municipalities themselves. They were reluctant to implement it because they were afraid, of course, of some reactions or of some difficulties in managing the public opinion. But I think this progressively changed throughout the implementation of the project, and when they had a clearer idea of how this can be of value to them, because I mean, before they had no available water. Now it's gonna be almost free with this independent unit for them, so it serves different purposes. But also emergency situation like a fire or another emergency. So it's up to the, from my experience, it's up to the local administrations to be part of these solutions and help us. I mean, work together and inform properly the local communities. Also, we have plans of engaging schools, local, other local actors, so that the whole community, local community that we do this these practices are engaged earlier than the solution is implemented. So this is the idea. Not to hide, to try to hide it, but to share it. And if you have a lot of examples, then they become best practices, and people want to see actual results. If they see that, they get persuaded, and I think any reluctance is reduced.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Well, we've asked Maria to share the Slido, and I have to admit and confess that I've already contributed something there. that I think can be also used as a conclusion. While we wait for the screen, oh yeah, well, we have it there already. So we can see only part of it. Yeah. So raising awareness of the issues and understanding the technical. Another barrier here can be the involvement of not only the main relevant stakeholders, but also less technical groups like citizens. That's also something that I contributed earlier. And an opportunity involving different points of view from a more bottom-up approach. And we have here, yes, I also insisted on this issue on citizens. And I will just send a final question because we have only 3 minutes before I give the floor back to Josep to end up. A question that's very much related to the Slido contributions, and again with citizen engagement, because Daniel and Marion also shared some experiences on what I understand are foresight methods, prospective methods of engagement. In the case of Daniel, theater workshops and scenarios, seminars with the support of interactive visualization tools. And Marion referred to the challenge of raising awareness on local risks and making the connection between science and practitioners. So, well, I wanted just to ask if they have any input on which stakeholders were more active or more represented in such activities, and the role of citizens, which I think is a challenge and also a barrier for what I see here in the Slido. I will just leave our panelists to react on that if they have any thoughts, and then we'll just save one last minute for Josep to, say a few last words. So if you have any reactions.
Yeah, well, I can say regarding the decision theaters, they are, at least for the Impetus project, there are no experiences yet, as they are still to come. But the idea behind this to include the perspective also from this group of stakeholders into the decision-making process, as there is usually it's quite disconnected, but as those decisions affect many people, especially if you talk about water issues, then there is seen that there is this need to have this interaction and to take also the citizens along the road why the decisions have been done this or that way, but no experiences yet.
Maybe I can add to that from
yeah, we still have 1 minute.
Oh, of course. Oh, sorry. So for us, there was a variety of very engaged people, and those were the ones who were already experiencing water scarcity and already had to deal with it. They usually had a very strong interest in seeing what the future would bring for them. And for the ones who were less affected already, it was very useful to make very specific how they might be affected in the future and what water scarcity might mean for their daily life, for example. Because, for example, the provision of tap water is always something that's taken for granted, and to tell people about what it takes to actually provide that service can sometimes help them understand what certain changes in the water balance might mean for these very basic parts of their daily lives.
Thank you so much. Well, I'll let Josep now take in, and maybe just in this last minute.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Joanna. Nothing more to add. So the experts have give their opinion, also their experiences. maybe I should close just saying thank you for the good moderation, Joanna, and also for all the contributions of the speakers today. I would say for all the audience, so let's keep tuned to our social networks. We will continue making some events and promoting the adaptation to climate change, as it is the aim of our project, and also coordinated with the other sister projects that we have. So thank you for joining us. I hope that the session has been fruitful for you, and see you on next ones. Okay, so thank you.